everybody, welcome or welcome back to the channel. My name's Nicole and this is Dusty Book Sniffers, and today I am continuing on with my Booker Prize long list journey for 2025, so let's get started. Good morning or good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for taking your time out of your day and spending it with me while I prattle on about another book off the Booker Prize long list. Okay, so the Booker Prize long list dropped a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to endeavour to get all of these books read by the 23rd when the short list is announced. Am I going to be able to do it? I do not know, but I'm going to give it a red hot bash. And the book that I'm talking about today is One Boat by Jonathan Buckley, and I believe this is their 13th novel that they've written, but it's the first time that I've experienced this author, which is not surprising really. I mean, who can keep up with all the authors on the face of the planet and the amount of books that are published every year? But I do try my best, and that's why I love reading these prize lists as well. And I don't normally do the Booker Prize, but as I said in earlier videos, my subscribers have convinced me that this is a good idea. So to keep up with the subscribers and what they want, here I am talking about One Boat. All right. So when I first picked this book up, I thought this was going to be sort of a father-daughter story, but it's so much more than that. We are following Teresa. I think it's Teresa. I've got my notes down here. Yes, she returns to a small coastal town on a Greek island, and she is there to mourn the passing of her father. But she had been there 9 years earlier mourning her mother when her mother passed away. And it's sort of a slow-moving story that is about grief and memory and identity. So, as I said, I thought it was a father-daughter story, but it is so much more than that. I feel like that this is more focused on her internal feelings and choices that she's made and all of those sort of things as we go along in the book. So right away we are in a familiar setting, and the first part of the book sets you up for that. So we get to the island. She is discussing how everything is familiar to her, right from the cafes to the island to the, just being there in general, how it feels very familiar to her, and rightly so, because she, as I said, she's been there 9 years earlier to mourn the loss of her mother, and so she, after a little while, she starts to, she's thinking about her family, she's thinking about her father and everything, but after a little while we start to engage with some of the other people that are on the island, and she has a sort of complicated relationship with Nico from previous encounters. She also comes across, I've just got their names written up here, and I'm making sure that I get all the names right. I'm probably still going to get it wrong because we all know how hopeless I am at names. So she's reflecting on her family, but then she starts to interact with the island people. And and so we've got Petros, who is an eccentric mechanic that dabbles in poetry. We've got Xanthi, who is a cafe owner, and she also has interactions with Nico, a drive instructor who she shares a complicated past and emotional history with. And then we also have another character, which I didn't write their name down, who is haunted by the violent death of his nephew. He was brutally murdered in a brawl, and we get some reflection from that character about the feeling of injustice that was done around the death of his nephew, because the perpetrator didn't do much jail time. So we get these little layers happening throughout the book with all these characters, and it's bringing something more to the table. And it's also helping Teresa navigate her grief and also her internal struggle of past choices that she's made and things like that, and we just slowly go through the story. And when I say slowly, we are slowly going through the story. This is not a fast-paced book by any stretch of the imagination, so if you don't like slow stories that are a bit introspective, a little bit philosophical in some ways, because we're talking about revenge and justice and all that sort of stuff, with the murder of the young lad. I think he was 21, so it was quite a shocking loss for this particular particular character. And so we go from, you know, with Teresa, her going to the island, it's pretty straightforward. You think you know what you're going to get, and then it sort of shifts gears a little bit and towards the end of the book. And so yeah, so I was a little bit not put off. I wouldn't say put off by that, but it was a little bit, oh, okay, we're sort of switching up the gears a little bit here, which is okay for me. But I just don't know if the book was hitting with me at all, really. Like, I know that these themes are in it, and you know, we've got, you know, themes of grief and identity and relationships and all these little subtle things that are happening in the book. But for me, it just wasn't hitting. And I don't know whether it was because it was slow paced or whether I just wasn't getting the emotional pull that I thought that the book was going to give me, which is quite possible because, as I said, I thought it was a father-daughter story that I was going to get, but it was just so much more than that. And it was more about a mother-daughter story in a way, like, and the connection that they had. And I guess in a way, maybe she didn't fully grieve her mother. So this was also, and now with the loss of her father, she was feeling like she could now dive deeper into those relationships and reflect on them a little bit more. So as I said, for me, I just don't feel I was getting the emotional pull that the author was trying to put down. I could see it, but it wasn't hitting for me. So the things that stood out for me were the memory and identity and grief and healing. That they were the main themes that stood out for me in this book. And that is because Teresa is reflecting on her parents, the past choices that she's made, and all that sort of stuff. So it all that comes down to, memory and identity, and then also the grief that was in this, and her dealing with it, but not trying not to be overwhelmed by it, I guess, or broken, for lack of a better word, by the grief, because it can be quite debilitating for some people. I didn't find that Teresa was being she was just sort of acknowledging it there and working through it in a way, but it was very subtle. So the things that sort of worked for me for this book was the writing. I felt that it was okay. Like, it wasn't groundbreaking or anything like that, but, it was okay. It was nice. We had a beautiful setting of the Greek island. And we also had the exploration of human connection and grieving and all that sort of stuff. What didn't work for me in this book was the pacing. I felt like it was a little bit too slow. I think we could have probably picked up the pace a little bit. And I didn't feel a super strong connection with Teresa at all. Like, I felt like I was just going through the motions of reading this book. Should I have DNF'd it? No, I don't think so. I think if I had have tried to DNF it, I still would have wanted to know where it went, like where it went. So I don't think it was the book was the like DNFing it was the issue here. Like, I feel like I should have still read that book, if that makes any sense at all. They were the general feelings. I did think once or twice, like, this is really slow, I want to put it down. But I probably would have had I not been on a deadline to read these books. Am I pushing through it and not DNFing? Not at all, because it's not like the Women's Prize where I want to read every book to give you an honest review. This is something that I've just taken on, so I haven't set that line for me. So I don't think it was I should have DNF'd the book at all. I don't think it was a badly written book either. So if it was a badly written book, I probably would have DNF'd it. So having that, pacing issue, I could sort of get through that, like at the end of the day. And I just sort of, as I said, I didn't have that emotional connection, and I just think that the author just didn't pack enough punch for me, I guess. I don't know. There's just something there, and I just can't quite put my finger on it. There's just something there that I just didn't feel, and I do feel like it's the emotional side of it. So I'm just going to have to go with that and say it was the emotional pull. But overall, like, I sort of enjoyed my time with it, apart from the pacing. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. Do you know what I mean? It just didn't move me in the way that I thought it was going to. And that was predominantly because I think that was because my initial thoughts of it was going to be a father-daughter story, not such a reflective story. So yeah, I think that that's probably what has put me off a little bit of this book. I've given it 3 stars because as I said, I don't think it's an exceptional, rave about this book or anything like that. It's a book that you could read. You could easily read it on a flight. You would probably get something out of it. And I think too that the things that you will get out of this is what you bring to the table when you're reading it. Do you know what I mean? Like, so for me, it was about identity, grief, and reflection and all that sort of stuff. So maybe that's what I'm bringing to the table, so that's what I'm pulling out of it, and it's going to probably be a different experience for every person that reads this book. And I just, as I said, I don't think the author hit home with me on this one. So that is really all the thoughts that I have about this. I could probably just go round and round in circles for a long time trying to figure out what I'm missing. And I do believe it is just the emotional side of it. But that is it. All I've got to say about One Boat by Jonathan Buckley. I am going to be moving on to my next one. I have no idea what it is. I might actually just spin it up and see what book I'm going to read. But my question to you is, have you read One Boat, and what were your thoughts on it? Because I'd really love to hear what you've got to say. Was it a yay or nay if you don't want to be too talkative about the book? And of course, if you've made it this far, leave me a stack of books in the comments down below as well. And that way I know you've made it this far. But as usual, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. It helps me get seen in the algorithm. And as I said, that's it from me today. You keep turning those pages, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.